there was so much abuse in our family. I believe as an adult, I've had probably 2,000 beatings in my life. And that same night, he raped and beat me and kept doing it for 18 months until I got away from him. And then he stalked me for 45 years. There's a phone in the car. I pick it up. I call my house. My son's dad answers. He goes, "Hello?" I go, "I'm in a limo. I'm going to be Bob Hope's pinup girl." He didn't even know I left the house. And and he goes, "Yeah, right. You're at the grocery store. You're at the payphone. Bring home 6 tomatoes." I'm sitting around, and Tom Cruise comes over and he talks to me, and he says, "You remind me of my girlfriend." I said, "Who's your girlfriend?" He said, "Mimi Rogers." So I'm like, "Who's Mimi Rogers?" And I look up Mimi Rogers, and I thought, she's pretty attractive. Wow.
Hello and welcome to Ego Was Here. Today I'm joined by Heaven Stellar, a Hollywood actress, talent manager, and more, who has transformed challenges into a life of courage, creativity, and reinvention. Hello, Heaven.
Hello, Anna. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I was so inspired by your journey. Heaven, you've had such an extraordinary journey through life. Can we start at the beginning? Like, what was your childhood growing up in Kentucky, and how did it shape the person you became?
Well, I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and I was born to a very interesting family. Um, I am the middle child of 7 kids,
Mm-hmm.
very middle. The middle child tends to, in my experience, be the one who carries the brunt of the work, the emotional responsibility, like taking care of everybody's feelings, making sure everything's in order. And also, for me in particular, I had to learn to read the room, meaning I had to know what somebody's feeling or thinking before I stepped in the room to make sure I was safe. So that helped me develop some psychic skills that I use later in my life professionally. I still use them. And it was a survival mechanism. And I
Yeah.
believe we all have the ability to, it's a sixth sense. We have our 5 senses. The sixth one is the sixth sense, which is the psychic ability to read people. Like you can size somebody up literally in 5 seconds of meeting them. And
Mm-hmm.
your knower, I call your higher self your knower, will know if you're safe, if you're not safe, whatever feeling you're getting in your gut, trust that.
Yeah.
So I learned that very early on. And where we lived was 710 Peterborough Avenue, which was in the ghetto of Detroit. And
Wow.
yeah, and I went to school, I think 1 year before we had to move because the riots in Detroit City in that year, they burnt down our apartment building. So we left in just the nick of time in the middle of the night. And the next morning, the apartment building had been burned to the ground. So we skedaddled out of there and went to Ohio. And I lived in Kentucky from age 9 to 16. And
Uh-huh.
in Kentucky, it was a rural tobacco farm where we had to harvest tobacco and sell it at the auction after the harvest to get a yearly income, which was, I don't know, I think the most we ever made was $6,000 for a family of 9 after spending the entire year growing that crop. What I know about tobacco today is I wouldn't go near it, but it was, how we had any sustenance at all on the farm. We didn't, if we didn't grow it or make it, we didn't have it because
Mm.
it wasn't available. We had no running water. We had an outhouse. We had wood stoves for cooking and for heat. That means that a lot of trees were cut down and I carried in a lot of wood. It was my job to draw the water from the well for the big family for washing, cooking, laundry, everything that you need water for. I had to draw like 40 buckets a day of water from a a bucket, a pulley, and a chain where you have to like pull the bucket up like this.
Yes, yes,
And that
yes.
made me very strong under my arms, which are called the lats.
Uh-huh.
And I was so strong. And I was so small to be so strong. And working like a man when you're 9 years old before your bones form causes a lot of problems later in life with your spine and
Yes.
your skeletal system. But I didn't know that then. And so I got very strong, baled hay, worked the gardens, worked the fields, stripped tobacco, anything a man did. Sometimes I could work circles around a grown man. That's just because
Really cool.
I needed that emotionally, that that outlet just to
Yes.
work to keep my sanity. Um, because there was so much abuse in our family. All said and done, I believe as an adult, I've had probably 2,000 beatings in my life. I was beaten every day for no good reason at all. All they had to do is tell me what they wanted me to do, and I would do it, but they still beat me as if I was objecting, and I never did object. Um, so that's a kind of environment that I grew up in, and it was worse too. I mean, I saw my mother being beaten and as good as killed right in front of my eyes by her boyfriend. Um, and I saw that maybe 100 times. And then, of course, I ended up married to someone who beat me
Yes.
because it was all I knew. And
Exactly.
um, yeah, and I've been married 4 times. The first 3 times were to slightly better versions of who I grew up around, but only slightly better versions. Just they looked different. They had different backgrounds, but they were equally as abusive. It turned
Uh-huh.
out to be in their own ways. And I got very good at getting out of those relationships once I got in and figured out that, oh, this is a lateral move. This is not an
Yes.
upgrade. So I would get out of those relationships, and each time I was in one of those relationships, they destroyed me financially. And when I got out of those relationships, I bounced right back up, and my credit score almost perfect, almost like it took about a year, but that's that's how much my credibility matters to me. And every single person that I was involved with, I learned so much from that. Uh, and I applied it all throughout my life. It's like the first marriage, I ran off with that guy when I was 17
17
because,
years.
yeah, because
Yeah.
my mother's boyfriend said he was going to kidnap me, take me to Florida, and marry me. And he had been molesting me since I was 4. So I would rather die than to be any part of that. So I met this guy at my work, and he'd been coming around for a while, and we talked, and I told him what was going on at home. And then he said, well, I know what to do. Because you're 17, you're not considered an adult. But if I take you across the border and we get married at justice of the peace at a courthouse, you'll become an adult the minute you say I do. Just lie about your age, and and then I will set you free once you're an adult. They can't make you come back, so you'll be an adult, and it'll be platonic. It'll be like a business deal.
Uh-huh.
There'll be, nothing involved except I'm going to help you become an adult, and then I will give you a divorce when you turn 18, and then you'll be free for the first time in your life. Well, that's not what he did. I went with him into Tennessee, and we got married. I lied about my age, and that same night he raped and beat me and kept doing it for 18 months until I got away from him. And then he stalked me for 45 years until 2018, when my current husband and I took him to court and got a permanent restraining order. So I haven't heard from him since, and that was 7 years ago. Um, and so we got rid of him, but I didn't know that standing up to him was the way to get rid of him. I was afraid of him. I I had PO boxes. I never told anybody where I lived.
Uh-huh.
I changed my phone number all the time. And occasionally he would find out where I lived again and send me a nasty card or dead flowers or you name it. Just terrorize me. And so I finally got rid of him, but it took so much for me to learn that I can be my own beloved. And I took 2 years to become my own beloved after my third marriage. This third marriage, well, he was a chronic gambler. And he kept giving money to Nigerian con artists on my credit cards and ordering new credit cards in my name and using that money to pay off these Nigerian con artists. Um, and that gave me a bleeding ulcer that almost killed me. Normal hemoglobin, when you do your blood test, is 13, 14, sometimes 12. Mine went down to 4. And I could have died on the way to the hospital to get a transfusion and surgery because I had a bleeding
Unbelievable.
ulcer. Yeah, had a bleeding ulcer from that guy. And then I divorced him. I made him pay for it, and he did. But I just have learned so much. And after that marriage of divorce, I thought, this isn't working out. I don't know if I'm going to ever have a healthy relationship. And I think what I need to do is have a healthy relationship with me, because everywhere I go, there I am. And I'm bringing my own baggage to every situation. And I am, for some reason, like a radio signal for predators. And
Yes, yes.
I want to turn that off because I don't want to attract any more narcissists and sociopaths. I don't want to attract that. So I took 2 years to give myself a sabbatical from dating. And I just poured my energy into me. I took myself out to dinner. I took myself dancing. I bought myself flowers. Um, and I went to one of our favorite department stores here in Los Angeles called Macy's. And just so I could have male energy in my home, I bought a men's Tommy Hilfiger velvet robe, was blue, and matching slippers. I didn't look at the size of the robe. I didn't look at the size of the slippers. I just thought these are lovely to have in my home. So
Uh-huh.
I hung up the robe in my closet in the bedroom. I put the men's slippers under my bed where on the side I sleep. And I took a month to smell all the colognes that they had to see what kind of smell I wanted my man to smell like, my imaginary man. And it was called Givenchy is the one I selected. And I
Uh-huh.
spritzed that over my pillow every night before I went to sleep. And I bought myself negligees. I wore them for me. And I just really learned to become my own beloved. And even cleared out a parking space in my garage for a second car because I realized I had 2 cars. I didn't need 2 cars. I'm one person. I lived alone. So I thought if I clear a parking space, then I'm making room for
Yes,
this
room for yeah.
wonderful, healthy relationship that I'm
Mhm.
conjuring up by becoming my own beloved. And I learned what my thoughts, feelings, and preferences were because I didn't realize up until that time, my thoughts, feelings, and preferences were my mother's, not mine. Because she
Mhm.
always told me, if I want your opinion, I'll give you one. So
Yeah.
my opinions were her opinion. And I didn't know I was living that way. So I took that 2 years and I learned who I am, what I like, um, and that all the things they told me about myself were lies because it was all negative and horrible. And it's like I just got that they were lying to me about myself. And lo and behold, when I got so comfortable with my own company that I would need to be very generous to have a man in my life again, of course, uh, I met one.
Yes,
My
yes.
husband, we've been married almost 19 years now. But um, when I met him, I was at a personal development seminar in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills. And it's because I had a radio show called Spiritual Hollywood. And there's this book and film called The Secret about the law of
Of
attraction
course,
that
we all know
came,
about it. Yeah.
yeah, 2006. So I loved it. And I watched the movie, I read the book, and I had probably 14 of their teachers on my radio show. And I wanted the creator of it, Rhonda Byrne, to be on my radio show. So I go to the seminar with Mike Dooley. He notes from the universe guy that
Mhm.
lives in Florida, and he came to Los Angeles for do a seminar, and he invited me as a guest because he was on my show 4 times. And so I came, and I was wearing these kukui nuts, the big brown beads from Hawaii, because one of my talent manager clients, who was a beauty queen, um, in West Virginia. She made those for me with her own two hands, and they had a lapis lazuli silver pendant at the bottom. I wore them everywhere for a year. And then I walk into the seminar, and I see a guy talking to a group of people, and he's wearing kukui nuts. And I'm like, what? And I wasn't dating. I was still on my sabbatical. So I'm like, I have never seen anyone in LA wear these except myself. So I had to go over and say, hi, my name is Heaven Stellar. What's your name? Well, I didn't say Heaven Stellar at the time because his name is Stellar. I became Stellar. Um, 'cause- but anyway, long story short, I said, so you're the only person I've ever seen in LA wearing kukui nuts. He goes, well, where did you get yours? Did you get them from the Billionaire Boot Camp? And I said, what's the Billionaire Boot Camp? And he just rolled his eyes and walked away from me because I wasn't cool enough to know what the Billionaire Boot Camp was. And I thought, well, whatever, I'm here to enjoy myself. So I did. And then I go home, I go about my life, I go to another seminar. This guy's there again with the kukui nuts. It was what's his last name? Chris Howard seminars. And
Uh-huh.
so I walk up to him, I say, hi, fancy seeing you here again. And somebody called his name from the stage. He turned around and walked away again. And I'm like, oh, well, that's 2 for 2. So what? I'm here to enjoy myself. So I did. And then there was another 2 times at seminars. The same thing happened. And he walked away from me so many times. Excuse me. I memorized. He has like a bald spot on the back of his head. Very cute. And I
Uh-huh.
memorized the bald spot on the back of his head because he kept walking away from me. And then one day, after a Mike Dooley seminar, I had breakfast with Mike Dooley the next morning, and I said, I'd love to have Rhonda Byrne on my radio show. How do I get in touch with her? He said, well, she's got a publicist. Call my assistant, and she'll tell you who to call. And
Uh-huh.
he didn't really want to help me very much with that. And I learned why later. And so I get home, I call the assistant, she gives me the information. And it turns out the publicist is in Burbank, California. And it could have been Australia because Rhonda's from Australia.
Uh-huh. Yes.
So I called the number and I asked to speak to, the person that I was given the name of. The person comes to the phone and I said, hi, I was at Mike Dooley's seminar on Sunday and I've had him on my radio show, Spiritual Hollywood, 4 times. And I'd really love to have Rhonda Byrne on my show. He goes, oh, I was at Mike Dooley's seminar on Sunday. I said, you were? He said, yeah. I said, maybe you saw me. I'm the girl in the brown beret. He goes, oh, I saw you, the guy in the kukui nuts. And I'm like, what? And and so I was like, oh my God, this is the guy who walked away from me all this time. So we talked for a few minutes and he said Rhonda Byrne doesn't do interviews, so whatever. And then we started emailing each other because he wanted to know more about my radio show because he's a publicist. He's
Uh-huh.
actually the publicist that took the secret to Oprah.
To Oprah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know who he was. And then I found out he was a publicist, and so we emailed each other. And then he signed off all of his emails with "in gratitude and joy." And then I thought, well, he's kind of a jerk, so that he must be lying in gratitude and joy. That's not authentic. So I blocked him on the computer, and so I don't hear from him again. Because like this guy is like he's a mess. And so I get a virus on my computer, and I had to get a new computer. So when I got a new computer, he wasn't blocked anymore. And I get an email from him. And suddenly Chris Howard wants to be on my radio show. And I go, oh, really? Because he wouldn't let his clients on my radio show before. Like, oh, they're too good or whatever. And
Yes.
so why do you want your client on my show now? He goes, well, you're having a lot of great people on your show. And Chris really wants to be on your show now. And I'm like, well, let me see if I have any room for him, and I gave him a hard time. And then finally, one thing led to another, and he and I met for coffee. And
After how long,
it
Heaven?
was probably, I don't know, 6 or
Like
8
from
months.
that you met?
Yeah. And so we met for coffee, and I'm at the counter buying him a smoothie called Hawaiian Vacation. And I turn around, I look at him, and he's just rubbing his head and giving himself head wrinkles, like so stressed out. And I looked at him and I thought to myself, I could never date a person like that. He's a mess. He's a mess. And so I brought him his Hawaii vacation smoothie and we started talking. He brought me some books from his clients, and I had brought him gifts of personal development gifts that I thought would, I didn't want anything from it, like, have my clients on your radio show or something, but he brought me his client stuff so I could consider them for my radio show. But I
Yes.
brought him gifts just because I thought he could use some help because he's a mess. And so he liked the gifts I brought him. One was a shirt with positive affirmations written on the inside of it. You're supposed to sleep in to help reprogram your nervous system. So I gave him that, and he loved it, and a couple of books that I bought for him. And so every time we saw each other and had coffee after that, we brought each other stuff like that. And I thought, oh, this is very nice. So it turned out he wasn't such a jerk. He was just overwhelmed because
Yeah,
when you're taking somebody to Oprah, it's a huge big deal.
of
It's
course
like
it
a
is.
pinnacle for an author.
Mm-hmm.
And it exploded, as you know, international. The Secret did after that. And so he didn't know who I was, thought I knew who he was, thought I was coming at him like everybody else and their brother was coming at him to take me to Oprah too, you know.
Yeah.
And but I was innocent. I did not know who he was at the time, and he figured that out. And then we became best friends. We went on hikes, we went to gratitude dinners, everything personal development. We went to seminars together. And at one seminar, we're sitting taking notes at the seminar, and he started laughing. And I went, "What's so funny? You think my writing is funny looking?" He goes, "No, I'm laughing because you're left-handed, and so am I." And I, "You are?" And so I was like, "Oh, this is kind of like nee 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 nee," like
Yes.
Twilight Zone, because the universe put the Kukui Nuts guy in my eye line. I
Mm.
introduced myself. He turns out to be the guy for The Secret. And then we end up being best friends and doing all these things together. And he's left handed. And he lived 5 minutes away from me for at least 15 years, and we never saw each other. I'm sure we were at the same post office, grocery store, gas station, dry cleaners, like you do in a neighborhood.
Yes.
But we
Yes.
never saw each other until we were supposed to. And also, I would never, I married older men, at least 10, 13 years older than me, because my father died when I was 3 and I never
Mm.
knew him. So I didn't know that I was unconsciously looking for a father figure in my life. It was
Mm-hmm.
unconscious. And I got to tell you, just because a man is older doesn't mean he has his stuff together. It's like every one of them that I married was looking for a mom. And
Mm-hmm.
and I was their mom for a while. I took care of them. I let them drain me financially until I was like, okay, talk to the hand, the face ain't listening no more. I'm out. So, and I finally got strong enough to take care of myself all of those times. And so I dated older men. I married older men.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out they don't have very much energy to go on walks with me. So that wasn't good either.
I'm
And
sure they.
what was that?
I'm sure they didn't.
No, they had arthritis and just like felt like, they're going to die soon. So it's like, okay, you go on and die soon. I'm not going to be a part of that. So, uh, so what I'm getting at is my current husband, John Steller, is 10 years younger than me,
Mm-hmm.
10 years younger than me. And I was just floored the day that he told me his feelings about me because we'd been, you know, I was trying to fix him up with women. I was trying to get him back together with his former wife. I was
Oh.
trying to get them in therapy. It's like, go to therapy. You should be together. You got kids. It's like, no, I'm really done. And so uh, one night we go to this gratitude dinner, and we always, you know, he would take me in his car. We would meet somewhere and take me in his car, or I'd take him in my car, wherever we're going. So he brings me back to my car, and he said, I said, okay, good night. Thanks. That was fun. See you soon. And he goes, uh, don't go yet. I said, why? He goes, I have to tell you something. I said, what? He goes, I don't know how to say it. I said, well, just say it. He goes, I don't know how. I said, you tell me everything. If you knew how to say it, how would you say it? He said, I don't know. Just say it. Okay. I'm charmed and enchanted by you. What?
Wow.
What? What does that mean? Well, I want to carry your books for you. I, I want to be your sacred partner. And I went, what's a sacred partner? He goes, I want to be your boyfriend. I was like, what? I turned white. He turned white because in that moment, he felt like the best brother a girl could ever have, platonic, no messing around. I never would have crossed that line. I didn't think of him that way, but I left him as a friend. And when he said that, he killed off my brother because it would never be the same again. It's like your brother's not supposed to want to date you,
Yes,
oh,
yes,
be
yes.
your boyfriend. So uh, we both were blown away. He turned so white, and he was always wanting to hug me. We get out of the car, walk me to my car, and I went to hug him, and he was like, ah, so scared that I had to grab him and pull him in and hug him and say, okay, we'll talk about this later. And I went home and I thought about it, and I couldn't stop smiling.
Yes.
I
Because deep
couldn't
inside
stop
you had
smiling.
feelings for
Yeah.
him, didn't you?
Well,
Yes. In
I already loved him as a friend because when I
mhm.
love somebody, I mean, I don't mess around. I just love them. Um, but I was appropriate with it because, like I said, it wasn't romantic love. It was just loving a human being for trying. I could see he was really trying to be his best self, and he had a lot going on. But underneath all that stuff, I could see this pure, wonderful human being. Um, and about a week and a half later, we had our first kiss at the same place we had coffee. And when we had our first kiss, we bumped our teeth together, and we had all this energy in our stomach that was just
Yes,
like
yeah.
we were laughing so hard because we bumped teeth. We never really did get an actual kiss in, but it was bumped teeth like we were 12. And it was so cute and so sweet. And we were just inseparable after that. And it turns out that that night he shared his feelings with me, and I took it in like, what? Because I swear to you, I am intuitive. I did not see that coming.
Yes, yes, you
And
didn't.
um, it turned out to be the wedding proposal, the actual real one, because we got married by Reverend Michael Beckwith. Have you seen our wedding video?
No, 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 I didn't.
Oh, gosh, it's everywhere. Um, we got married at the 11 o'clock service at Agape International Spiritual Center.
Uh-huh.
Nobody in the audience knew. My former husband was there, the gambler man who took my money. I got my money back because I made him give me his house, and then I sold his house, and then I took back all the money he took. So I did get my money back, but I also got an ulcer and almost died. Uh, so uh, he was in the audience. And so I was wearing my wedding dress. It was not like a typical wedding dress, but we were in our wedding garb. And Reverend Michael, you know who he is, right? The guy in
Yes,
the
yes.
teacher, and he's amazing. And he goes, "Okay, congregation, I want to borrow your consciousness for just a minute because Sister Heaven and Brother John, they're gonna get married, so don't go anywhere." So then he brought us up on stage, and we improvised our vows. And the man who made our wedding rings, I don't know if you could see
That's
my
so
ring right there. That is made from, we melted down all the jewelry that the men in my life before my husband gave me
mhm.
because what I learned from each one of them made me into the person that my current husband fell in love with. So to honor those relationships, I melted this ring down and put in the gemstones from all of them to honor my journey with my
Yes.
relationships that brought me to this healthy relationship. That the relationships I got myself into were so bad that they drove me into myself to become,
Thankfully,
yes,
right?
on the level.
Yes.
But I don't know if every person would do that. I
No,
mean,
no,
for the way
that's
I
why.
was raised, I
Mhm.
could be on the corner in Hollywood with a needle in my arm selling my body.
Of course.
Didn't
Of
choose that. I chose me. I chose life. I chose to be my absolute best self. I want a world that works for everyone, leaving nothing and no one out. And that's just who I am. And
mhm.
tried to help these men I married. They did not want to grow. They did not want me to water them. They
Mm-hmm.
wanted just to stagnate and decay. And that's what they were doing. And I couldn't watch that. It broke my heart every time. And I couldn't be with that because I knew that I needed to bloom. And I can't bloom in that environment. So I just kept moving. And now I've been married to this lovely man for almost 19 years. Um, Everything we do is a hot date. This Labor Day weekend, we stayed home. His desk is across from my desk, so we could see each other. And we just sat there and played music and paid bills and flirted with each other and I make meals and we go on walks and
Yes.
just really just enjoy being together because wherever we are together, it's like, why would I pay or he or us pay thousands of dollars to get on an airplane and fight all 17 point something million people who are traveling for Labor Day, spending a ton of money just to go somewhere different, maybe not to have a good time. We just
Mm-hmm.
did all that at home, because
Yes.
we have everything we need here
Yeah.
because we have each other here.
Of course.
And it's
Of
not
course.
for everyone, but we don't have a life where we need to try to escape it. And I did have that kind of life before. And for 20 years, I've been growing as a person in a safe environment for the first time ever, as has my husband. He said the first night he spent what he calls my apartment, the sanctuary, was the first time that he ever felt safe
Mm.
in his life because he
That's
had his own
beautiful.
situation with his family.
Mm.
I don't think he'd mind if I tell you his father was a serial pedophile and it was awful for him. And I just want to, I just got all my love on him and showed him that he's safe and that he's loved and he's cared about just because he's breathing on this planet, just because he exists. That's enough reason to be loved and cared for and respected and honored and cherished. And he gives it right back to me. And so we had the best Labor Day ever. We played chess and just, just
Yes.
so much fun.
Tell me, Heaven, because it's unbelievable just to think that for 44 years you were being stalked by your ex-husband.
Yeah.
How were you able to work, like, to live your life knowing that you were in danger?
Um, I got very good at going underground. I changed my name a bunch of times too.
Hmm.
Um, and what I didn't know is my very toxic 2 years younger than me sister was giving him my new address every time I moved.
Oh.
And I was
Hmm.
a mom and I was married to someone else. And he came from Ohio to Hollywood and banged on my door and told me to come out, that it was time to go home with him. And I was married to someone else. And my son yelled through the door, I don't know what you're talking about. No one like that lives here. And so I called the police, and the police came and got him. And I knew from when I left him, I went to a domestic violence shelter. And they told me, don't let him hear your voice. Throw away all the pictures you have of him. Don't answer him, no matter if he calls, writes, whatever. He's dead to you. He has to be dead to you, or you will never be free of him. And so I didn't let him hear my voice, but the police came and got him. And later in 2018, when he had him on speakerphone in the court because he was still in Ohio and he was
Hmm.
in court via speakerphone, he said some snot-nosed little boy said that she didn't live there. And I was like, oh, he was making fun of my son.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and it and the whole courtroom was like they got to see what a jerk and a sociopath he was. And the judge asked him, why did you go there to Hollywood uh, to try to get her to come home with you? He said, oh, I just wanted to see what she looked like.
Yeah.
And, the judge I could see it
Hmm.
in his eyes, he got what I was dealing with, but he had to be fair. And, the lady justice has a blindfold. So, so that he had to be fair to him. as well as me. So I thought for a second that he was going to rule in this guy's favor,
Hmm.
but that wasn't the case. And one thing I don't think you know is that Rosemary Acolina, she's the judge that put Larry Nassar, the gymnastics doctor, the pedophile who molested hundreds and hundreds of young gymnastic girls.
Yeah.
I've heard about that,
No.
but that was a couple of years ago. She put him in prison for several life sentences, and she's my friend, and she is a judge in Lansing, Michigan, and she
As
and
you
I,
were texting, right?
yes, we were texting in the bathroom, and I said,
Mm-hmm.
Rosemary, it looks like this judge is going to not give me my restraining order. She said, don't you worry about a thing. I know what he's doing. He's
Mm-hmm.
keeping this case pristine in case it goes further than today, in case it's not settled today, that no attorney can throw it out because he didn't do it right, because he was partial to you.
Yes,
He's
yes.
impartial to keep this case pristine. So you tell him you want a permanent restraining order with prejudice, meaning that the stalker could not come back and try to overthrow it,
Mm-hmm.
and that you want to read your victim impact statement in court. They have to let you. So I went back in there and I did those things. I read my victim impact statement. The and it was very graphic. It told everything he did to me. Um, and the court reporter stopped typing, and her jaw was like what? Like he
Being that,
did these things to you?
yeah.
And he was listening to me read my impact statement. And my husband was holding my hand. I about squeezed his hand in two. My knees were banging together. My hair was shaking because I was trembling so much, and tears were streaming down my face to get this all out. I purged
Yes.
myself totally in that victim impact statement in front of the court. It was a packed courtroom. And then after the case was over and I went to the elevator and people followed me, they were just like, it was like I had a fan club, because they were like, good for you. That took so much courage what you did. Oh my God, I'm going to go do that in my own life. So, but when the judge said, um, well, if you don't accept this restraining order, sir, you're going to have to come here to California and bring witnesses from 44 years ago that will swear to what you're saying is true.
Mm-hmm.
If you come here, we could arrest you and throw you in jail and you won't get out. So, do you want to continue this case? Do you want to come here? And he said, well, Your Honor, that's the way he talks. Your Honor, I'm tired. I'm tired. I have arthritis. I can't come there. All right. And he says, do you accept this restraining order, this permanent restraining order? Well, yeah. Do you accept it with prejudice, meaning you can't come back and overthrow it? Okay. And so the judge, for the record, said what he had to say, and we got our restraining order. And I grew to be about 10 feet tall that day because
I'm
that,
sure you did.
that
I'm
took
sure.
so much. And my husband, you know, just sat there and held my hand. And the judge got a good sense of what had been happening. And I called Rosemary back. I told her what happened, and she was so happy. Um, and it just was the hardest thing ever. And I did it. Um, you know, things like that happen in your life, you have the right to keep doing your magnificent things, no matter, no matter. You have the right to keep doing your magnificent things. Find a
Yes.
way to do it. Find a way to keep believing that you have the right to do that. If you're drawing breath, you have the right to do that. And that's that's what she kept encouraging me for. And I've done some shows for Spectrum TV and ATTN on gaslighting and um, sociopath abuse and just I tell my story everywhere I can, and I've been a storyteller for the Moth. The Moth is in Los Angeles and all over the country, where people come together and they tell 5-minute stories that are true. No notes are used. You tell it from memory, and it's just a storytelling night, and it really creates great community because you're really getting to know each other. It's like you could see someone across the room and go, "Ooh, they look like a jerk," and then they get up, they tell their story, and you're just like in love with them because
Yes.
they've been
Uh-huh.
through it, you know?
Uh-huh.
And it's very cathartic. And I did that for a couple of years, and I went to the Grand Slam too and told such intimate details about my life that are just out there in the ether. And, it's like no ego involved at all because I just tell it from my perspective, not really making the abusers wrong, but understanding that hurt people hurt people. If a person's
Yes. Yeah.
hurt, they're
Yes.
going to hurt people.
It's a
And
vicious. Yes.
it's a
Yes.
vicious cycle. And that's really what happened to me. And I do believe that my mom saw something in me that was pure strength. I was born spiritually wide awake. And that was to a family who only believed in violence, hate, and fear. The one thing I was allowed to feel as a child was fear and and just terror. That's really the only thing allowed from me and around the family. If ever I felt joy, they would squash it. I mean, all those beatings, I don't think I deserved even one of them, honestly.
Of course
Um,
not. Of course not.
I'm a good person, you know. You don't have to tell me twice what you need. I'm always looking to get to know you so I know how to love you, you know? And
Yes.
that's what I did with my current husband. It's like I want to know everything about him. He let me read his diaries, his journals. He told me everything. I just listened to him to the nth degree. It's like, get it all out. Tell me everything.
Hmm.
And when we first got together, he told me, I don't want to know anything about your past. And he didn't understand that wasn't a compliment. That that was a big red flag. And I'm just like, oh brother, you in for it.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Yeah.
going to know everything about you and you're going to know everything about me. Because when I met him,
Yeah.
the kind of friends he had, he obviously didn't bother finding out about their backgrounds because,
Hmm.
oh, cuckoo city. Um, and just he's such a whole completely different person now. It's like he knows everything about me, been to all my doctor's appointments with me. I've had 6 spinal fusions, a rebuilt elbow, a rebuilt shoulder, eye surgery, you name it. I've just had it all. And he's been there holding my hand for all of it. He's seen my x-rays, seen my guts, he's seen my bones,
Oh,
everything. Yeah,
that's so.
yeah, he knows me. He knows me now, and it's like I make fun of him sometimes lovingly, like, and you didn't want to know anything about me. How you like me now? He's like, I love you so much. It's like you can't really know how to love somebody if you don't know them,
No, no,
right?
you can't. Of course not. Of course not. Heaven, you started acting because your mother was watching soap operas. Is that true? Was that the reason?
It's true. Yep.
Please, please, can you
Yes.
tell us how you
Yeah.
got your SAG card?
Yeah.
That's an amazing story.
Well, she loved The Young and the Restless, Days of Our Lives, uh, All My Children, General Hospital. All My Children was shot in New York, so I didn't do that one, but I did all the others.
All the others. Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah, and also Port Charles, which she liked.
Mm.
So I did 4 that she watched. Um, and she, whenever her soap operas would come on, her stories, she called them. I think she escaped into these soap operas because she hated her life.
Uh-huh.
She didn't know that children were a side effect of sex. She didn't know it, honestly. That woman was the biggest sex addict I have to this day ever been aware of in my life.
Yes, because all your 7 brothers and sisters right there from a different father.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
amazing.
Yeah, yes. And she tried to make us think we were all like related, like same dad. No, DNA testing showed us all one by one. No, no, no. So it was she just would watch her stories and nobody was allowed to talk, sneeze, cough, get up to go to the bathroom unless the commercial was on. Nobody could move
Mhm.
if we were going to be in the room while she's watching her story. So I I I was just looking at her one day when she lived in San Diego, and I was visiting from Los Angeles, and I was like, I know what I need to do. And I just started acting. I think I was still living in San Diego at the time, and then I moved up to Los Angeles because I was on the soap operas, and I was on so many, I had to just move up there. But I thought, you know what? I'm gonna find out who casts these particular soap operas. So I went to the bookstore, I found the casting guide, and I took a picture of myself, I put it on a postcard, and I said, you've only just begun to hear about me. You're going to cast me on your show, and it's gonna be soon. I'm just starting acting classes. Pretty soon, you're gonna be glad that you met me. So I'm gonna keep sending you these cards until we meet and you put me on your show. And that is exactly what happened.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I went to my acting classes, and my teacher, she says, you're terrible at this. And I said, well, then tell me how to do it. She told me how to do it, and then I did it. And she stood up, she had a cane, and she slammed her cane on the floor. She said, my God, I have never seen anyone take direction like that in my life. So, and that told me that I was onto something. So I just kept doing that, like just being real and
Yes.
not being like acting. Acting is not acting. It's just being real with someone else's words.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so when I learned how to do that, and I finally went up and I started working at a casting workshop, running
Mm-hmm.
them. And then the casting directors I've been writing to for at least a year, they would come in and they would be leading the workshop as a teacher. And I would tell them, remember those postcards from San Diego? I'm that girl. And they're just like, what? And so I would get to do a scene in these casting workshops too. And they would see my acting and they go, well, uh, okay, I'll call you in. And then I went in for my auditions. I went in for my callback. And then this one particular casting director for General Hospital, he said, okay, there's probably 100 people that could do this part, but I'm going to give it to you because you worked for it. And don't you dare make me look bad. And I said, oh, I won't. And I was on that show 43 times. And
Oh,
yeah, so long story short, I was doing these soap operas. Then I did Young and the Restless, and I had lines, and I played a very loud reporter, the kind that screams from the crowd, and you're the loudest one, and someone's got to answer your question because you're louder than the rest of the reporters. So I that was my scenes, and my sisters were sitting around my mom having coffee in San Diego the day they knew I was going to be on, because I told them when I was going to be on, and they said that I came on and my part came on, and that my mom was sitting there watching, and they were watching her watch the TV, and they said she didn't say a word, but the tears fell down onto her shirt, and she never said a word about it ever to me or to them. But she
not even
saw,
to you.
yeah, she saw.
Mm.
And I think if I were to read her mind about that, maybe she thought I did everything I possibly could to break this girl's spirit, and it didn't work. Look at her. Look what she did. And I found out later that she bragged about me to all the grocery store cashiers, but never
But
gave me a pat on the head. Good girl. Nothing. Never.
she was like that with all your brothers and
Oh
sisters.
no, no. She was so proud of my little sister for working at a thrift store. She would go spend the day with her at the thrift store. She told
Also,
me she didn't walk
only
over the block to see me in a play.
mm,
It was personal.
it was personal.
She hated me. She hated me because my father was an aristocrat. He was college educated. He graduated college when he was 12. He went to MIT, which is the
Yes,
technical
yes, yes, of course.
engineer, and he was an electrical engineer. And he was very, very smart. My mother quit school in 3rd grade, and she got her education from crossword puzzles. But he was so amazed that she was so innately intelligent,
Uh-huh.
smart, like really smart. And he was proud of that about her, but she thought he was looking down his nose at her, like he thought he was better than her. So she hated him. She actually hit him in the head with a cast iron frying pan once and tied him up and put him in the closet because she
Oh.
thought he was making fun of her. And, and the way he paid her back after she let him out of the closet was he drove her to New Mexico, threw her in a patch of cactus in the desert, and made love to her. And she said she was picking burrs out of her butt for a month after that. So that's the kind of relationship they had.
Yes. So tell me also about Top Gun.
Oh,
That's a
yeah,
nice story.
yeah.
Your
Uh,
first.
I got my SAG card from that.
Yes.
Soap operas are a different union. They're AFTRA,
Hmm.
AFTRA, and the movie Top Gun is SAG, Screen Actors Guild. But I had found an agent after I had a car accident and I bit my chin in half and I lost my bottom teeth. This is a
Hmm.
what do you call it? A partial? No, it's called a what's it called? I don't know. Uh,
Doesn't matter.
you know what I mean? It's not my real teeth, but they don't come out. Um, so I wrote her a letter before my showcase at this acting class with my acting teacher, and I said, I want you to know I'm really happy you're coming to our showcase. I wanted to tell you in advance. I don't have any bottom teeth. I had a car accident. I'm still going to be in the showcase, and I just want you to know I'm going to be talking funny because I don't have any bottom teeth yet. And thank you for coming. And so after my showcase, it went great. And the girl that was my scene partner in the showcase is the reason I had the car crash. That girl, she caused it.
Oh.
And I had to be in that scene with her. Well, she did not get an agent that day, but I did. Uh, and the agent didn't know about that situation. But when the agent came walking over, Tina Real was her name, is her name. She came walking over to me like rushing over to tell me, "Oh, I loved your scene." And when I saw her coming towards me, I got so scared. I ran in the ladies' room and locked the door. And she's
Oh.
banging on the door. She goes, "Let me in. I want to talk to you." And I'm like, "What do you want?" She's like, "I want to talk to you. Let me in. It's okay." So I opened the door. I let her in. And she goes, I really want to meet with you in my office. Can you please come and meet with me at my office? So I did. And boy, I had to do a lot of mental gymnastics to do that because the way I was raised is that I could never be anybody, I could never do anything, and this was before I did the soap opera. This is the very beginning.
Yes.
And so I go to her office without my bottom teeth, and she said, I really want to sign you. I think you're very, very special. And and I said, but I don't have bottom teeth. She said, well, you're gonna have some, right? And I said, yes, I have a dental appointment. He's gonna fix it for me. She goes, okay, no problem. And it wasn't even a whole week after I got my bottom teeth put in that oh, what is that called? It's not a partial. It's a I can't think of it. Darn it.
You're asking
Oh,
the wrong
it's a
person.
bridge. It's a bridge. It's a bridge. It's a bridge. It's a
It's a
bridge.
garbage.
Yeah. I'm almost 70 years old. What do you want? So it's like,
Is
but I'm getting smarter. There, that's what I tell myself.
of
Um,
course.
it's a bridge. So I got my bridge put in, and for some reason, the casting director of Top Gun was in town. It was San Diego, shot in San Diego. They picked me to be one of their union extras, a SAG extra, which
Hmm.
is you get like a whole bunch more money every day,
Of
and
course.
it's just a better situation. You're treated better. They dress you. You don't have to bring your own clothes and all
Mm.
that. So they picked me, and I show up on set, and I'm sitting around, and Tom Cruise comes over and he talks to me, and he says, you remind me of my girlfriend. I said, who's your girlfriend? He said, Mimi Rogers. So I'm like, who's Mimi Rogers? And I look up Mimi Rogers, and I thought, she's pretty attractive. Wow, I think I'm flattered. So we just would always talk. And so I went up to this woman after 3 days. I worked 4 days on it. And there were girls lined up around the block just to get a look at Tom Cruise. And I'm sitting there talking to him every day and eating lunch with him. And uh, I walk up to this woman who worked there. I think she was like a stage manager or something. And I said, you know, I'm just sitting around doing nothing, talking to Tom Cruise, and quite frankly, I pay you guys to get to do that. So can you please give me something to do where I could earn my keep? And she said, you can go sit down over there and be quiet. And I'm like, oh no, I won't. So I got up and I walked over to Tony Scott, the director, may he rest in peace. He jumped off a bridge a few years ago, killed himself. I kind of think I know why, but that's just between me and me. But he, I told him that that woman with the red hair over there told me to sit down and be quiet because I wanted to earn my keep on the shoot because I'm just sitting around talking to Tom Cruise. I didn't really pay you guys to get to do that. What can I do to help? And he says, oh, she did she? She told you to sit down and be quiet, did she? I said, yes, she did. He goes, well, go to wardrobe, tell him to put you in blah, 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 blah. Go to hair and makeup, tell him I want blah, 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 and then come back to me. So they put me in short shorts, a tank top, did my hair, put on little ruffly socks with some high heels. And so I came back to him. He goes, okay, now when I call action, no, no, this is my first acting job ever. When I call action, you walk into the bar, you know, the bar scene where he sings to Kelly McGillis.
Uh-huh.
You walk into the bar and you go, oh, yeah, baby, to all the guys walking down the bar. And I did that. And it was so much fun. And all the other girls were so jealous. It's like, how did you get him to let you do that? And then another long story short, I ended up going to the premiere for Top Gun in San Diego with Tony Scott and Jerry Bruckheimer, who's the producer, in their
Uh-huh.
limousine. And there's a part of the story that I haven't introduced yet, but because I was raised on a farm and got very, very strong, I have a world title in arm wrestling. That's a whole nother
Yes.
story.
Yes.
And so in the limo, Tony Scott knew that I had a world title in arm wrestling because I sent him cookies in England, and he ate the cookies, loved my cookies. He stayed in touch after the shoot. Then he invited me to the premiere, and he knew I was an arm wrestler. And so he tells Jerry Bruckheimer in the limo, he says, I want you to arm wrestle this girl. You just won't believe how strong she is, because I'd already arm wrestled Tony Scott. And he was so small, you know, I just pulled him over. And so Jerry Bruckheimer was kind of misogynistic, you know. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not doing that. He goes, what, are you afraid? Are you chicken? What if she beats you? He goes, she's not going to beat me. He goes, oh yeah, prove it. So Jerry Bruckheimer puts his arm down on the table in a limo, and I put my arm down on the table in a limo. I'm wearing a white mink coat trimmed in blue fox and a green satin suit with a big satin green bow in my hair. Not an arm wrestler at all. And so we arm wrestle, and I put him down so fast that he fell on the table and broke it. So the table broke in half, and I beat Jerry Bruckheimer. And he got so mad. It was very awkward sitting in a car in the back seat with him and Tony, and Jerry was fuming. He was so mad. And Tony couldn't stop laughing. And I just sat there kind of like, you know, and then we had a blast at the party, and I went home, and then Tony sent me a giant arrangement of flowers the next day to my home. And it took me and my husband, both my son's dad, to pull that big basket of flowers into the house. But he just said he had the best time, and I was really something else. And then the next job I got after that was the Bob Hope special, where
Yeah.
I played his 1940s pinup girl. And Bob Hope, have you seen that clip of me on the Bob Hope special?
Yes, yes, of course.
In second grade, we were supposed to have a Valentine's Day party at school the next day. And the night before, I watched the Bob Hope special on our little black and white TV with a coat hanger for the antenna.
Uh-huh.
And I love Bob Hope because he was just such a ray of light. And he always gave me such hope. That's his name, Hope.
Yes.
And so he's the last thing he says on all of his specials is, and remember, folks, the greatest gift of all is love. And so I'm like, I don't have anything to give my class. So I took notebook, paper, and crayons, and I went upstairs with a flashlight, and I drew his profile. You know, he's got that peach
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
nose and
His
profile
nose.
with a big smile and sparkles. And I wrote on the inside, remember, folks, love is the greatest gift of all. And I signed my name, Love Me. And I put one on everybody's desk, including my teacher, Mrs. Dean. And I was so excited for them to come in and see their card because I really put myself into it and I could give them something. And slowly but surely, one at a time, the entire classroom erupted in laughter. And
Oh,
when my teacher opened her card and looked, she started laughing. And she had this big hair, and her hair was shaking. She was laughing so hard. She had a red face anyway, and her face got really red. And I remember the hot tears were falling down my face, and I put my head on my chest and my desk, and just, it was so embarrassing and so humiliating. It's like so much for love, you know? And I never
yes.
gave up on love anyway. And so I go, I'm asleep. Fast forward to when I'm 27 in San Diego, married, a new mom, and I'm asleep on my face in the bed because I'd been up all night painting. I love to oil paint. So I'm painting a giant hoop dancer, Indian hoop dancer on the wall. So I just spent the whole night doing that. I got to bed like 3:30 in the morning. My hair was dirty, slept on my face. The phone's next to the bed. I get a phone call like 8 o'clock. Hello, this is Tina. Can you be down in Mission Bay by 9 o'clock for an audition? And I said, what? Tina, what? She goes, it's Bob Hope and Dolores Hope. They want to see you. They're looking for a pinup girl. They're looking all over the country. They haven't found her. It's got to shoot today. Can you go? And I went, who? Bob Hope. Yes. So I hung up the phone. And it's like I threw my makeup in the air and let it fall on my face pretty much, metaphorically. Put my hair in a ponytail like this. And I put on a golf cap. And I didn't know you weren't supposed to put a wool sweater in a dryer, but my navy blue wool sweater, a Shetland, Scotland golf course sweater, ironically, shrunk, but I put it on and it fit me like it was spray painted on me. And I put on some, it was good for this. I put on some beige Bermuda shorts and some navy blue high heels. And I raced in my car. I mean, it's like I could have broke the sound barrier getting there. And I got there in time and I kind of like ran in and slid in sideways to sign in. And there were like 20 buxom blondes, all from like the John Robert Powers modeling school. And just like, they all looked very much alike. And
Like, yeah.
all blondes, all big busted, and all like dressed to the hilt. And I come in my hillbilly costume. Like I just threw on what I could find in the quickest minute and red lips. And I was going to meet Bob Hope. And I had that vibe all over me. And it's like they laughed at me when they saw me come in and sign in. They didn't know who I was until I signed in. They're like, oh, she's going to audition? Laughing. And so I'm just like, well, that's not new. It kind of reminded me of that other time. And it's like, I didn't
Yes.
care. I didn't care. I didn't even pay attention. And then
Mm.
it came time for she was like 80-year-old talent coordinator. She worked with Bob Hope forever. Ushers us all into their hotel suite. And they're sitting there in silk pajamas, matching. And they have this little black poodle named Max. And he says, okay, girls, I want each one of you one at a time to walk across the room and back again. And then just keep going, one after the other. And I was the last one to sign in, so I was last. I watched them all do it, and I'm like this.
Mm.
And I don't see anything different. It's all, it's just like the same, doing the same thing. And so I'm thinking, I don't even know
I,
how to do that. I'm not going to do that. So, so I love Marilyn Monroe. And I knew that Bob Hope loved Marilyn Monroe too. And so I gave my best hip swinging Marilyn Monroe walk across that floor. Boom, da boom, da boom, da boom. And little Max the poodle just started barking and turning circles around me. And I just started dancing with Max. And we just had a good old time and laughing. And the girls were all laughing at me against the wall again. And so I turned around, I go, And then I walk back to the wall. And then and Dolores and Bob were just grinning so big. And I didn't care what they were thinking. I just had the best time. When am I gonna ever get to do that again?
Of
So
course.
yeah, so next thing I know, Bob's whispering to Dolores, and she went, he said to the talent coordinator, I'll take the black haired girl. And I went, me? And she goes, come on, dear, come out in the hall. So I go out in the hall. We all go out in the hall, and all the women are like, ah! They're so freaked out. They're so freaked out. And I slid down the wall and hit my butt on the floor so hard because I was like, what? She goes, come on, dear. There's no time for fainting. Your limo is here. And in comes uh, uh, a chauffeur wearing ice blue cummerbund, bow tie, white gloves, tuxedo, long tails. And he says, come with me. And he helped me up. He took me to the car. I get in.
Like,
There's a phone. It was like 1985 or 6. There's a phone in the car. I pick it up. I call my house. My son's dad answers. He goes, hello? I go, hey, what are you doing? He goes, I'm sleeping. What are you doing? Where are you at? I said, I'm in a limo. I'm going to be Bob Hope's pinup girl. He didn't even know I left the house. And he goes, yeah, right. You're at the grocery store. You're at the payphone. Bring home 6 tomatoes. And I said, no, I'm not. Okay, bye. So I go to the hair and makeup. They fix my dirty hair. And I learned that day that having dirty hair is easier to work with, not clean hair. And so they
yes.
cleaned it all up and they put a bow, and I got to wear the same shorts I came there in. They put on a pink tank top because the skit was about seeing double, about breasts. So it was like a double entendre that Don Knotts and Bob Hope were doing, and it was a Top Gun theme. And so I'm sitting between Jimmy Stewart and Bob Hope for 3 hours waiting for my turn to go on, and they're telling Hollywood stories to each other and to me. And I'm just like, wow, that's amazing. And then I felt comfortable enough to tell Bob Hope my story about second grade and what happened and how they made fun of me and how,
Mm.
love is the greatest gift of all. And he looked at me, he heard my story, he looked at me deep in the eyes, and he went right in the arm. He goes, I knew there was something special about you, kid. And
Yes.
that was
So
full
beautiful.
circle.
Mhm.
That was full circle.
So, Heaven, you've lived through abuse, stalking, like Hollywood highs, healing, and constant reinvention. When you look at yourself now, what do you see most clearly? Like, how have all those experiences changed the way you see the world, the way you see yourself?
Thank you for asking me that. The joy and peace I feel today was not predictable. And
Hmm.
when I was a child, I put my joy on layaway because I knew it wasn't safe to have that and to use that and enjoy that in the environment I was in. I don't know how I knew how to do it, but I did. I put my joy on layaway. I am unpacking that joy, and it has amplified over the years instead of diminished. And to this day, I am a person who used to put up with everything, people pleaser, doormat. This day, today, this person I am now, I will never, ever again put myself in an environment where I am required to abandon myself.
Hmm.
I will never do that again. I have the right to walk away from everything that doesn't work for me. I have the right to say no to anything that doesn't feel right to me. If I witness somebody I've been a Facebook friend with be a bully to their cousin, block, block. Can't call me, can't email me, can't find me. Block. And I don't feel bad about it. I'm just like, I see who you really are. I don't care how long we've been like social friends. I don't care. You bullied somebody kind, you sicked your flying monkeys on that lovely person to terrorize them. You are not like me. We
Mm.
are not the same. And I block them because I can.
Of course.
It's my right. I put up with so much crap in my life. It's I got like 40
No.
lifetimes worth that I put up with. No more. No more. It nearly broke my back. I have 6 spinal fusions just putting up with it, putting up with it, putting up with it. I just feel like that I have finally come to the place where I can be all I can be. There is nothing in my way. There is not that message in my head, you'll never be anybody. That woman that was my mother, that was the most evil, meanest person I'd ever met in my life. And I loved her anyway. I still do,
Mhm.
but I don't have to like her. She was awful. She's not in my head anymore. Who's in my head is a loving, caring, cherished little inner girl who
Mhm.
knows I've got her. I've got,
Yes.
and she has me. And I have become the woman that that little girl would run to for protection.
Mm.
I have become that person. And I know it like I know it like I know it. And I have the right to live my life on my terms. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what I'm doing. I don't have to go on a trip for Labor Day. I could stay home with the husband that I love dearly and enjoy myself and watch Netflix and eat popcorn and just be totally
Amazing.
blissfully happy.
Mhm. So your motto is nothing left, all used up. How do you want that's so beautiful.
My
How
head's
do you want
going to
people
be, yeah, I slid in sideways, nothing left, all used up. Yeah,
all used up?
yeah.
How do you want people to remember the way you lived, like your life and what
Snow White with an edge.
Wow.
Yeah,
Snow White on
Snow
Edge.
White with an edge. Yeah, fierce. Fierce.
Fierce.
I love fiercely. I'm a fierce friend. I'm a mama bear. When I love you, people better not mess with you or they have to go through me. And I mean it. And I act like it. And I just care so much. And I'm incredibly discerning. If you're a bad person, you don't get my attention. You don't get my energy anymore,
Mm.
period. And all of the abuse taught me so many things. It's like if I could decorate a tree with every abuse I've ever gotten, it would be the biggest tree on planet Earth with the most beautiful ornaments because of what I've done with it. Alchemy.
How you were able to transform that pain into something beautiful with a purpose and being able to love yourself for
Yes.
who you truly are and not
Yes.
who you were
Not the
shaped to be.
spotlight. Not the spotlight. I, I mean, I'm still an actor. I just turned in 2 self tapes yesterday for some movies.
Mhm.
And I'm booking more than ever because I'm more myself than ever. And the only thing that makes you different than any other actor out there is your authenticity. So if you don't bring
Exactly.
authenticity to the room, you're no different than anyone else that can walk in and get that part. I mean, that's how what Bob Hope saw, you know. I was
Yes.
authentically me, as hillbilly as that might have been in their opinion, but that's what they wanted. And that's, they picked me. And
Yes.
I've been picked above other people so many times, and I'm just always like, wow, how did that happen? Wow. It's just amazing, 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 amazing. And that I won the world title in arm wrestling. Oh, just, and the woman I won it from had the world title, and her husband was a referee, and I had her that close to pinning her, that close. And I pulled my hand away, and I went, no, I can't do it. And her husband, the referee, says, why did you throw the match? Why did you do that? What are you doing? And I said, my mother's in my head. She's telling me I'll never be anybody and I'll never even be second best. He goes, you had her. You had her. You had her. Do it again. Do it. You can beat her. You can win. So I took her hand and I went, boom. And I was crying. She was crying, he was crying. They were my
Exactly.
angels that helped
Mm.
me. They supported me, and they had every right to want her to win and not me. But I took the world title that day because they insisted I be my best, because they saw in me something I didn't see in myself. And then I brought that and I won.
Yes. Unbelievable. Heaven, if someone feels stuck in their past, what would you tell them to help them see that change is possible?
If you're stuck in your past, for me, I was stuck in my past. And then I found a book called Toxic Parents by Susan Forward. It literally fell off the bookshelf into my hand. And I started going through it. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. The worst stories in that book about toxic parents were like nothing compared to the real things that happened to me. And I didn't at that moment know that I had had that kind of toxic upbringing until I read that book. And it was revealed to me just the extent that I had been abused. And then I got really mad. And the way I became unstuck was I've, there's a phrase, if you don't go within, you're going to go without. So I started going within and I started looking around in there. And what does go within mean? It means start writing down, what are my preferences? Uh, what are my desires? What are my thoughts? What are my beliefs? Mine that belong to me.
Like
And
reinventing inventing yourself.
reinventing yourself. And just
Yeah.
find out who is the you. Who is the you and who is the them that's in your
Hmm.
psyche. Because people who are stuck like that have generally been abused and heard really big lies about themselves. And what there is to do is to go inside and find the truth of you. Now, if you're a bad person and you're insane, you're not going to think you're insane or a bad person. So you're not going to go looking. But if you're not insane or a bad person, you're going to go look. So I'm talking to those people and find out where the lies are. Find out what the truth of you is. There's so many resources in the world. I'm writing a book called Sophisticated Gangster: How to Turn I forgot my own subtitle. Anyway, it's Sophisticated Gangster. Oh, from hillbilly to Hollywood. Um, and it's going to have all of my stories in there about how I turn things around, how I reframe it. And
Yeah.
being stuck, you can reframe the word stuck. You can reframe it to say, uh, like thinking, I'm stuck. Why am I stuck? You could ask the universe or God or creator, whatever you believe in, why am I so good at knowing my true self? So you ask a question, why am I so loved and supported? Why am I so confident? Why am I so certain that I'm safe? Why am I so safe? Why am I so smart? Why am I so charismatic? Why am I so talented? Why am I so beloved to the world? Why am I so freaking amazing? So you
Yes.
ask this question, and the universe, God, creator, whatever you believe in, starts answering them. When you do affirmations, the I am this or that, anything you say after the words I am is what you are. But that's an affirmation. But if you ask the question instead of affirm, ask the question, why am I so amazing? The universe starts culminating the answer. And then you start little by little seeing the hints and the clues of why you're so amazing. It just starts happening. And then you start allowing your amazingness inside of you. And then you start allowing your amazingness to emanate out of you. But if you don't let it in, it ain't coming out.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
reframe yourself.
Reframe
Reframe.
yours.
It's a very powerful word, reframe. Changes your life. Reframe.
Hmm.
I've
So,
reframed my whole life.
oh, you definitely did.
Yeah.
Like you transformed it completely.
Yeah. And I've been dead before. So that's why my name is Heaven. Because I've been in hell and now I'm in heaven. And that's my name, Heaven Stellar. And I'm sticking to it, because I've earned it.
You earned it.
Yeah.
Heaven, thank you so much for being here today. It was so lovely talking to you.
Well, thank you for being such a gracious hostess. I sure appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. So remember, ego was here, you were here, and that's enough.